And tonight's guest from the bowels of hell is Satan. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with Late Night with the Devil. This is a movie that since I first saw it advertised and stuff, I definitely wanted to see it. It looks really interesting and very stylistic, and in the best way possible. Because if you don't know, the premise of this movie is very simple. Late night show, supernatural shit starts going down. Crazy shit. That's pretty much it. And I don't know the specifications of this. I don't know, like, if it's literal, like the devil is literal in there, or if it's just like, demon possession in general. I don't know, like, exactly what this is going to center around, be about, focus on. I'm not sure, because I've only seen like one, maybe two trailers for it. Now I want to touch on a topic of contention for this film, because it was revealed that I guess some like posters or something that are in the movie, some advertising posters or something, in the movie, not like advertising the film itself, but it apparently they were made or enhanced using AI, and there's this big kerfuffle about that because AI art is theft and is morally wrong and shit like that. Which, by the way, just to make very clear, I agree on. AI art is shit, but I've heard various views on specifically what was done here, and from what I gathered, I think that it's supposed to be that the art was done by artists, but that they used the AI to enhance it, which isn't great. Still, you should have just asked the AI artist to, like, maybe update, or the regular artist, not the AI artist. You should have just asked the regular artist to update things, or try to like enhance it somehow, and not rely on AI for obvious reasons. But if we're being honest, enhancing art isn't as bad as creating it from the ground up. Because enhancing art, you're taking art that already does exist, that an actual artist already worked on, and you're enhancing. And yeah, that sucks and that's bad, and you shouldn't do that, because it still is, it's insulting, if nothing else, to the artist, that their art isn't quote unquote good enough for you to use as is. So it's definitely still bad, but it's not as bad comparatively. That being said, apparently, from what I also heard, the main star of this, and I apologize if I butcher his name here, David Dastmalchian, I heard that he was not a fan of this being done. That he didn't agree with this being done himself, and he really is not on board with that entire idea. And I will admit, I don't know all the details surrounding this entire hullabaloo. I have only heard things here and there online, and it's pretty much all been like, not the initial takes and sources and whatnot, but just the seconds, like, basically it came down to, it's like, oh, these people I heard it from another person who heard it from another person. It's like it went down the line like that. So it's like, I don't know everything about what is true or not in that entire story. But I guess that's a good thing that we're not watching this on an official source. Because, yeah. Um, that that definitely helps rather than giving our money to um, try and validate this kind of AI work and stuff. We're just going to not do that. And, like, I'm not going to get into the entire debate about all of that and about, like, um, whether or not it's right to get these movies or whatever from other sources. It's not a debate worth having right now, and honestly, I'm just here for the film. So, yeah. And honestly, if you're gonna have complaints about that, if you're gonna bitch about that, just probably don't watch this channel, because pretty much all my reactions are going to be that way. I love supporting the creators and everything, and supporting the people who made these shows and movies and all. But sometimes it's not reasonable to want to have to pay for all of these different streaming services and all. It's not reasonable. It's not right. It's just it's such a terrible business model that is so exclusionary, and especially to poor people like myself. So, yeah, we make do with what we got. But yeah, like I said, I don't know much about this outside of the main plot. I don't know who else is in it besides David Desmalkian. Um, I'm very curious to see exactly how this ends up going down. I've heard like great things in regards to like the actual movie itself, like outside of the controversy and whatnot. But I will, as always, judge that on my own viewing experience, because, as it always tends to go, my viewing experience can sometimes tend to be very, very different, and my opinions on films or shows or whatnot can often be pretty different than majorities or whatnot. So, we're just going to take it as it goes and see what this movie has in store. No better time like the present, so let's just get into this and hope for the best with Late Night with the Devil. Cutting in here real quick to remind you that we have a lot of great content to check out on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Friday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday, as well as Let's Plays every day of the week. We switch on and off every day between Horizon and Baldur's Gate 3 and have Anno Mutationum on Saturdays. Please don't forget to click the link in the description below to follow it to today's reaction. We redirect everything just due to copyright. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video and the channel, respectively. And I hope you have a great time with today's reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So one thing at the end there that I wasn't quite sure on, and I had to look up, and I was right on, was the part where he was like with the like cult members. You saw the cult leader from before, the one who was like in the same cult that Lily was a part of, and then there's the masked people there and everything. That was showcasing that he, like when he was in the Grove, this cult that he was a part of, and with his wife's words and everything in that same sequence and all, it's basically confirming that he did indeed take part in these cult-like activities. The cult, the Grove that he was a part of, was connected to the cult Lily was a part of, which is why the demon had met him before and knew who he was. And he sacrificed his wife for fame and popularity and, you know, success. It's to show, like, and with what, again, she said during that sequence to him, he had sacrificed her. He had basically caused her to get cancer in the first place and caused her death. All because he was desperate for fame and popularity and for his show to do well. I wasn't sure enough because the way this was all presented was very not just vague. Vague is not the word I'm quite looking for, but it was presented in a very out there kind of way because that's kind of what this movie was showcasing and all. And because of that, it wasn't 100% clear. But that does seem to be the case of what happened. I looked it up, and everything is saying that with all these, like, oh, the ending explained kind of videos and articles and whatnot. That's the big consensus, at least, that people are getting from this. And it all makes sense. It all adds up. And as for the end, the very end, when it's like he snaps out of the illusion and he stabbed Lily to death, from what I can tell and from what I read up on, it seems like he did do that, but it was just Lily that he killed. That all the others did die from the demon still. That was, like, real. And he killed Lily. Which, from what I was reading, is supposed to have severed her connection to the demon. Which, I guess, yeah, makes sense. We heard the sirens coming at the end, too. And it's like, there's strong implication that he's probably going to go to jail. Because, like, he's the only survivor. All these other people are dead. And even with, like, this being live and televised and stuff, it's like, he's going to be suspected of shit. He's going to at least be arrested. And he's going to, because the police and everyone, they're not going to think, like, all that possession stuff and all was real. So they're going to take it as, like, oh, he did something and he killed all these people and shit. So it's like, yeah, he's probably going to go away for quite a while. Honestly, if not even just for that, he'll probably go insane. So much for his fame and popularity and success and all. But I wanted to get through all of that first because that was the stuff at the end I was kind of thinking the most about. And I'm sure other people probably thought about, like, when they saw this movie, whether through this reaction or not. But yeah. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Now, I also want to bring up real quick before we get to just my general thoughts on the film and all. The entire thing with the mid-card, like, images. There were those mid-card images, like, when they were coming back from, like, commercial break and all. And I think it's, like, 3 of them were like, assisted with AI. And there was this big controversy about it, if you hadn't heard. It was this big deal. And it's like, it wasn't even all of them. And again, they were, like, just assisted with AI. They weren't, like, originally drawn by it and all, but still. As I said, using AI art in pretty much any kind of way is immoral and wrong. It is theft. It is just disgusting. But it could have been worse, for sure. And again, from what I heard, David Desmalkian wasn't even knowledgeable about it and didn't agree with it. Let me see if I can find more about that on the Wikipedia here. Probably in the reception. This is just all about, yeah, here we go. In the week leading up to the film's release, some reviewers pointed out the use of AI-generated art in a montage, which was not present in the version screened at South by Southwest. So apparently it was added after the initial South by Southwest screening, which yes, screening, not screaming, which yes, this was screened at the convention and all, ahead of its wide release. In response to the controversy, directors Cameron and Colin Cairns said, in conjunction with our amazing graphics and production design team, all of whom worked tirelessly to give this film the 70s aesthetic we had always imagined, we experimented with AI for 3 still images, which we edited further and ultimately appear as very brief interstitials in the film. Star David Desmalkian said, so I think Cameron and Collins said it really well, and I stand by what they said, and I can completely stand by this movie as a thoroughly original piece of work, that so many hours went into this incredible artistic craftsmanship to be set in this world. So it's a good conversation to have. It's an important conversation. We've got to have it. That's what it's just saying listed here. There's probably a lot more in regards to that, but yeah, it seems like basically what happened from what I can gather there is that it's just 3 simple still images that they just used AI to enhance, to get just right, and they did use actual artists when finalizing it all and everything. So it's like it's questionable for sure, and it's a problem, and it's something we definitely don't want to see continue in the film industry and video game industry and all that kind of stuff. We don't want to see this kind of stuff become more of a thing. We don't want it to become a thing at all. But it could have been worse, and with the amount of controversy, with the amount of attention this did receive, it will hopefully allow people to understand why this was a problem in the first place and why so many people were upset by this, so that hopefully it doesn't continue to happen. That is the wish here. That is hopefully what we're going to come out of with it. So all of that aside, let's talk about the actual film. This movie was phenomenal. The way it's set up, the way it's presented as like this documentary expose kind of thing that's revealing like these tapes to the world and everything, for anyone who I guess who wouldn't have seen it live, and showcasing, you know, the behind the scenes stuff as well. It's like, this is just such a creative, cool idea. Because it's like, yeah, I've seen like, I've seen shows or movies or stuff that have been presented in similar kinds of fashions, where it's like, oh, you're watching a movie in a movie, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. But it's like, the way this was done, the way this was handled, especially with it being, you know, a late night talk show, definitely gave it a completely different vibe. It allowed it to feel, ironically, more real. Interestingly enough, it's like it allowed it to hit harder and make it feel like this was more of a, even though you know you're watching, you know, a movie, it feels more genuine by having it presented in this way. Even with honestly, especially with Carmichael, I think his name was, the skeptic, especially with him like deriding everything. It's like that actually almost made it feel more real. Now, the ending got pretty crazy and went wild and intense and off the walls. And I understand that some people might not like the ending because it might feel like it's completely changing the tone and style of the film. Um, but I think that's the point. Everything up to then has been like this kind of slower build, has been very subtly done and whatnot. And so when you get to this ending, when all hell breaks loose, it breaks loose. It's just like balls to the wall insanity. The way the camera work is done completely shifts. The way the scenes are shot, the way it no longer feels like it's a um, televised late night program that you're watching. You feel more like you're watching an actual horror film. And like a 70s horror film, too. Like an old style one that's, not super well made. Which is why, like, when, the electricity and everything is surrounding Lily and all, it's like very cheap looking. And I think that was smart because it fits the 70s aesthetic, it fits the kind of idea of this, while at the same time flipping on its head from what the movie had showcased prior. It's actually pretty clever, I feel, by kind of flipping things on their script in multiple ways there. So I kind of dig that. I kind of enjoy that they did it that way, and I don't think it takes away anything from the earlier parts of the film. The acting in this is top notch. Everyone does a phenomenal job. I think the only one I actively know is David Desmalkian. I looked up like some of the other actors briefly, and it's like I don't recognize any of them. Except oh god, let me make sure I get this correct. There was one who I know, but it wasn't really an actor per se. It was the narrator. The narrator at the beginning who was narrating that this is a, documentary and all. The narrator was Michael Ironside. So I know who Michael Ironside is, but like otherwise, like for example, Laura Gordon, who played Dr. June. I thought I recognized her, but I don't. Ian Bliss, who was Carmichael. I don't recognize him. And it seems like all of them were Australian actors and whatnot. This was like an Australian production and all. Um, so it's like, I guess maybe that's kind of why I didn't recognize them. But yeah, it's like pretty wild. Pretty wild film. I like the effects too. Like you see those especially at a certain few scenes, like when Lily is possessed, or when Carmichael's hypnotism on Gus is going on, and you see Gus like ripping open his stomach to reveal the worms like busting out of his head. I really like those effects because they were kind of cheesy, kind of a little like silly, but at the same time, were just really well done. Like really well done. They reminded me of like the kinds of practical effects you would see in like The Thing or movies from that time. Um, so that's always a plus. I'm not saying it's like necessarily on the exact quality level of The Thing because that's almost impossible. But still, it was reminiscent of it nonetheless. Um, and on top of that, I really liked how they worked with the score, how they worked with the camera work and everything. I like how the behind the scenes moments were black and white. And I like the pacing of it. I like that it was just progressive over the course of the film. It starts off like small little things and gets more and more wild. And it's like you even find out new stuff about like the former events that are happening. Like with, uh, I can't remember his name right now. Um, the character's name I should specify. Christo. Christo's death. It's like I don't know. Maybe I missed it. It's possible, but I don't think it said that he died before that one moment that I pointed out in the film. Um, I don't think it said he died before that, and the fact that he did die, um, pretty wild. And it really paints like what was going on with him with spitting up the black goo and everything. It paints it in a more scary light, retrospectively. Um, and the scene where Lily is possessed and the demon is like saying like Jack and June went up the hill to fuck and everything, or whatever the exact line was. It's like that scene was so goddamn Exorcist, it's not funny. That scene was so incredibly Exorcist. And I am a professional Exorcist hater here. I am like one of those few people who don't think The Exorcist is a good horror movie. Um, and part of that comes down to I just don't think it was like good for the time, basically. Because the time it came out and everything, it's like it wasn't able to do as much as it needed to really work, in my opinion. It kind of fell flat. It wasn't scary. It wasn't interesting. This scene, the possession scene of Lily in this movie, was basically like an upgraded, better version of anything from The Exorcist, in my opinion. And I know that might be an unpopular opinion, and I don't really give a shit because it's my opinion and I'm entitled to it. But I genuinely think that was a better version of The Exorcist there. I just think it, like, with the modern technology, with the style of this film, hell, even with the acting, and I know that's going to be sacrilege to a lot of people, but I don't think Linda Blair was that great. I mean, she wasn't bad, but she wasn't that great. She wasn't, like, as phenomenal as everyone acted. I think the girl in this was better, honestly. Um, but in general, I think this movie was a lot better. And again, I think it comes down to like a lot of modern decisions that were made for this that just wouldn't have and couldn't have been made back in the day The Exorcist came out. But yeah, that scene was very reminiscent of that. Like I said, I loved Carmichael's character being just a skeptic this entire time and so intent on proving wrong, even though at no point did he ever prove anything wrong. Like, he's like, let me show you how I can hypnotize you all into thinking you saw something. And he's like, that just proves without a shadow of doubt that you did the same thing. It's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't prove that at all. You did not do anything to prove that she did anything like that. You just proved that you could. Like, what? he never actually proved anything. All of his moments of like trying to prove it were just like circumstantial at best, and just were just proving that he could do shit like that. So it's like, really, he's a failure at being a skeptic even. um, but I like how the characters like Offset and all would get angry at each other, especially for things that they pulled. Like Jack, for example, kind of strong arming June into accepting doing the seance and all in the first place, stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I like that they felt like people, where it's like, oh, they're putting on this performance while on set, even when they're getting angry at each other and confronting each other, but they're putting on a performance still, and their real like personalities come out more like during the behind the scenes stuff. I think that's just so good. That's such a good like idea for this. I just really like how this turned out. I think it just really impressed me in pretty much every way. Um, and I'm just wowed by how creative this was, because it's a common thing in terms of the film industry and other industries too, television, video games, everything pretty much. It's a common sentiment for people to say like there's no originality in Hollywood anymore. There's no originality in the game industry anymore. Everything's been done, and so now we just have to do our own original, unique takes on things that have still already been done before. And that's a very common sentiment that people always share. And some people use it to insult the film industry, saying there's no good movies coming out anymore because nothing's unique and original. But it's like, again, it just depends on how it's handled, depends on how it's written, how it's performed, how it's like specifically done. And even something that's very, very unoriginal can be great because it's executed well. So I think that this was one of the more unique films I've seen in a long time. I think it surprised me in how unique it was. It didn't feel like pretty much anything else I think I've seen. And yet at the same time, there were little things in there, like I said, like the possession scene reminding me of The Exorcist. Little things in there that were very reminiscent of stuff like that. That were, even if not an exact copy, even if done in a creative new way, still felt like it was paying homage to other classic horror movies and tropes and whatnot of the past. And I think that's probably the best way to be able to handle that. The best result is, like, if it's not going to be 100% creative, 100% new and unique, make the parts that are, old hat come across as new, come across as fresh, come across as interesting in their presentation, even if they are something we've seen before to a degree. If you can make it interesting and unique enough in its presentation, in how it's specifically written and all, then we can easily forgive it for being something we've technically seen before. That's how people should strive to write and direct and act in movies nowadays. And I hope more movies take ideas from stuff like this in how to do that. This movie was absolutely fantastic in every way. It exceeded my expectations, and just one of the best out there for sure. In terms of horror films and in terms of just movies I've seen recently, I would put this up there. I don't know the exact placement yet. I have to really think about that. Because honestly, I think I need to see this again just to, like, determine if I think this might be perfect or not. I'm completely serious too. And it's like, I know we just had another movie enter, like, my rare perfect scores just recently, but it's like, I'm really considering it for this. I'm not sure yet because I have only seen it this one time, and I feel like I have that recency bias and everything. I need to, at the very least, give it some notable thought. But as of right this moment, I can't really think of anything that I would consider a negative to this at all. For me, at least. Like I said, there's some things that I could see other people finding issue with, but I didn't. This might be one of those movies that I think is perfect. It might be. But like I said, I will really have to think about it. It could end up being more akin to Everything Everywhere All at Once to me, where it's like just so close to being perfect, but not quite there. Everything Everywhere All at Once is one of those kind of films for me, where it's like just that tiny little bit more would have sent it over the top for me, but it's not quite there. But like I said, I'll have to think about it. By the time you're seeing this, I'll probably know. And I'll probably, if I do consider it a perfect film, I will be putting it on, oh God, what's the website called? The movie rating website. I can't think of the name right now. I'm trying to bring it up on on my browser, but it's taking forever. You know, it's the one. It's the one where you can rate movies like by 5 stars, scores of 5 stars, and everything. It's just taking a minute here, and I'm sorry if there's any lag or anything, but it's taking a minute for my browser to realize that I'm using it again. Because I haven't been using it for a few hours now. Okay. Letterboxd. That's it. Letterboxd. I'm going to be putting it on Letterboxd. So if you look on my Letterboxd, which should be linked and everything, um, it'll tell you there. I have a list on my Letterboxd account that's for perfect movies, and it'll tell you there if it's on there or not. Or you could just ask me in the comments if you don't want to do all the work of finding that. And I will let you know. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Tell me your thoughts on Late Night with the Devil in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.